I used to do that with MMOs. I would make characters that look like coworkers, and I would then steal their name and roll around with them. And then, especially when I convince them to play the game, then I'd roll up with them and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" Hello and welcome to another Day Pixel. I'm your host, Joe, and with me today, the man who knows his way in and out of any editing software, uh, the man who can actually forge and Photoshop any paycheck so he can get any apartment he wants. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Yeah, apartments are notoriously bad at being able to read checks for some reason. I don't know why that is. But yeah, you can skate by on a lot. I learned almost everything I know from the movie Catch Me If You Can. Um, all of those rules and tricks of the trade still apply, even though it's a old movie and it's about an even older time. So yeah,
A time before cell phones, and yeah, back when things were way easier to pretend to forge.
yeah, just a bathtub full of checks. That's what I got, in the other room right now, and it's they're working. I'm working on them, and be in a new apartment this time next week.
It was just funny. I just ended up I read something about a guy photoshopping his pay stubs in order to get it because most apartments require X amount of rent per month. And just like a bank would be like, well, you don't obviously you can't afford to pay off a loan for X amount, like 2 grand a month, but you can, or like a hundred, 1,500 a month, but you can go ahead and pay 2 grand for your apartment. It's
Mm,
just like it doesn't make much sense, and it's kind of a broken system. Yeah,
yeah.
I've been in places where I need that apartment, and so we just end up having like a roommate who doesn't actually exist. And so
Uh,
I've had a buddy on paper like technically they live at my place, but they don't.
hmm. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, as long as you have somebody that's willing to, I don't know, say that
So
they
long
want to
as,
live there,
and they
they'd
don't
like
they trust me enough that I'm not just gonna bounce and leave them with an apartment to pay.
that is something that I would probably not be involved with, even as well as I do know you. But there's all
All
kinds
right,
of
at least I
generous
know where
people.
the line in the sand is drawn, and then I know when to cut your brake lines.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of breaks, my my dad and I just redid the brakes on my truck this past weekend, and I'd never done that before. I would have never like approached it, but he was like, "It's really not that hard," and I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess we can see if I don't die." And it really wasn't all that hard. You had to get the wheel off and do all this stuff, but once you actually just took the brake off and put the new one on, it's like, okay, that's all that there really is to it.
Did you bleed the lines?
We didn't need to. I didn't need to. Um,
Okay, you probably should though, because if you haven't done it before, most definitely an important thing. I know some people never bother. All they do is add fluid, and they've never actually bothered, bleeding their brake lines. But I mean, my father taught me that, and I was helping him since I was like 5. He's like, you need someone to press and hold the pedals. Now they have a one-way valve, so you can actually just do it yourself. It just takes a lot more running around to do it. But it was, yeah, it's not that difficult. It's just time consuming, and that's the biggest problem with a lot of maintenance. Is just like, oh, do you have the time, and what's more valuable, your time or the money it takes? But so that's cool though. You're able to save some money and get some quality time in with your father.
yeah, the brakes were not that expensive. They were only like $36. Um, so I saved a lot because it would have been like he said thought it'd be like 200 or something. I don't even know what it would be to have somebody change it, but it was going to be a bit. So it was good savings. I'm glad to have it done, and got to do it again. I guess in like 5 years or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, that's what's going on with me. How about you, Joe? What do you got going on?
Uh, Family's getting over the plague, so uh, I got sick again thanks to the kids, and the kids got sick again, and we're finally on the mend. So that's why we're recording this a little bit late. So this is episode 52. So we've been going at it for, believe it or not, 2 years, and we have like squat to show for it, but we have our dedication, so
We
therefore we win.
we have better lights, we have better production quality, and yeah, we have a lot of good, a lot of cool stuff like that. So yeah, there's a bit to show for it. Could be
You've
more,
moved
but
up in apartments, so that's always a plus.
yeah, yep, and yeah, but it's been good. It's been a good 2 years so far. Finally made a year's worth of episodes. But that's okay. We'll just plugging along here.
Yeah, but other than that, it's just, outside of being sick and just completely wrecking my time with, any schedules and trying to be like, "Hey, Starfield's coming out. Cool. I'm just gonna nestle up, get some good quality game time in." And it's like, nope, that entire, opening like, a couple days just shot the crap. So,
Mm.
but, it can't be helped. But everyone's doing better now, so yeah, thanks for asking. And, alright, well, speaking about things shot to crap, we got some news that wasn't so great after our last recording. So at the end of last month, uh, Volition, the makers of Saints Row, um, the creators of Descent, and a handful of other great classic games, they Embracer Group has decided to close them down, and it was quite sudden. It was just at the end of the month, and it was a kind of a just a out of the blue, deal where it's just like, "Hey, guess what, everyone? We're shutting down." And because it's the end of the month, your, your insurance doesn't last very long. Enjoy the next, like, 48 hours.
Yeah,
So
I saw that. I saw a tweet from somebody about that. I don't know. I guess you showed it to me probably. But yeah, it's sad. They just didn't want to pay for another month of insurance for their soon-to-be ex-employees. Um, it sucks. That's business. It would have been nicer if they'd at least given them like a week or something, and not right there at the end of the month. But accounting probably had something to do with it. But it's just sad. It's always sad to see a studio shut down. Um, I liked Saints Row. I thought it was good. I didn't think that it was gonna really blow. It didn't really blow my socks off. But it was good, and I would have liked to see more. It's always silly fun, but they just
I
weren't really
understand,
making it enough.
there being yeah, I understand there were some problems towards the end. I mean, granted, you're talking about the company who made, who did Red Faction, which was a classic series. But then when you got Saints Row, Saints Row the Third was probably their peak. And then Saints Row 4 is kind of where they kind of like overstayed their welcome or extended themselves just a little too far. Afterwards, they did Agents of Mayhem, which unfortunately did not do so hot. And then with the new Saints Row reboot, I enjoyed what I did play of it, but I also was playing it probably one of the worst ways possible, which was on a PS4,
Yeah,
and that was, it was early, it was a little buggy, yes, and it was a little difficult to play multiplayer. Um, it had a really good foundation, and, I was looking forward to seeing where they went with it. So, and it's kind of unfortunate because they're this month for September, they are now on PlayStation Plus, they're actually gonna be having the new Saints Row reboot, for free, for PlayStation Plus owners. And I had thought to myself when they announced it, I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. They're gonna get some more people playing, and that it should be hopefully, good for the team." And instead, uh, yeah, the Embracer Group, like, closes them down, and I'm assuming whatever contract they have with Sony for downloads or whatever, what kind of revenue, just they're like, "Well, we're gonna cut our losses at Volition and try to take that extra income for the
yeah.
greater company good."
I was gonna say that's
Uh,
probably what they were doing. They were like, "Well, we can make some quick cash. We just throw this on PS Plus. If we make a deal with Sony, throw this on PS Plus because we know we're shutting our doors soon anyway."
yeah, it's pretty sad. So, as someone who's been, also a part of layoffs and stuff, it's not a fun time. So, uh, you know,
Me too.
hearts and minds to all of them, and hopefully, they all land on their feet. So, I know a lot of people are doing, the gaming community is pretty good at trying to do outreach for when companies close down like this. So it's just it's a sad thing to see happen, and I know a lot of people are also hoping for a return to form for Red Faction and stuff like that. So oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it really is a big loss, and it was I think Saints Row was one of the last games I bought, like, brand new. I knew it wasn't gonna be the most groundbreaking thing, but I really did wanna support what I could because I had such good memories and such good times with Saints Row the 3rd. H m Friends and I, they kept us really entertained overseas. I was playing with friends stateside, and it was perfect in its hilarity, and even with the lag, it worked out perfect, as far as we couldn't have had a better time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, alright. What else do we got on the docket?
Next up, Switch 2 was demoed behind the scenes at Gamescom. So yeah, so what are they actually? So I guess this is just the code name is Switch 2. We don't really actually know if that's the
Yeah,
name.
it was during Gamescom, it was rumored that it was there in some form. And then it was just recently, I think it was Eurogamer and Video Games Chronicles. They just ended up talking about how they saw a demo. They didn't really get much hands-on or anything like that, but it was playing Breath of the Wild, and it was playing, I believe it was the Matrix Unreal 5 demo, that little thing that came out not that long ago, which if it's able to play that and it's the, like, native resolution and everything, or, like, the intended way, that means the hardware might be stronger than we might anticipate, which would be really cool.
Yeah,
Um
I mean, like, what are we thinking? Maybe a 1080p screen?
It's not just the screen, it's more like what the internal GPU's at.
Sure, sure.
And that's kind of thing is because even at the current screen level is still pretty good, but if you have the hardware that can run, because the other the this is the current Switch is what, a Tegra Nvidia chip.
Yeah,
Not really meant originally. It's not. It was like it's like a variant that's for the Switch, but not originally made for the Switch. So if they're making something this time around that's more bespoke or targeted towards Switch performance, and this is like their future, or some sort of handheld in particular, uh, they can really make some big improvements on it and really have some of those, hopefully, like, uh, DLSS, like, 3.0 and 3.5, do some frame generation, like really have some of those techniques to help out. And then that actually might make it really nice, but this is all speculation, so it's kind of hard to tell. But Nvidia has some really good tool sets available to them for current GPUs, so they can do something, take some of that technology and move it down to a handheld version. It might be really, really nice compared to what we've been getting. So, I don't know, fingers crossed. But, yeah, I didn't see anything else but other than a little bit of talk about, those 2 games, and, yeah, that was really about it. There hasn't really been much else news that I've been aware of. I don't know if you've come across anything?
no, no, I haven't come across anything, but I am interested to kind of see more about it. I didn't know that they were bringing it out at these events. Makes sense that they would need to bring it out a little bit and show it to people behind the scenes to kind of get word of mouth going. Maybe head off any bad publicity that might happen that they're just not really aware of. Having a journalist look at it and go, okay, well this sucks, or like this is good, or this part sucks, or whatever. Um, Anything to make it so they can go, okay, well maybe we delay it for 3 months or something like that. Those kind of things definitely make sense. But I'm just curious. I'm definitely looking forward to a name reveal or really just anything. I think it's going to be better. Obviously, it's going to be better hardware. I don't think we're going to get anything too special because that's not really Nintendo's MO. So I'm a little bit resigned on that point. But it is always exciting to get new hardware, and yeah, it should be cool.
Yeah, alright. And, let's see, next on the news you put down here, uh, Ubisoft's, X Defiant delayed due to quality checks.
Yeah, so the article here, I guess. Yeah, so I didn't really know anything about X Defiant, but it's going to be a Call of Duty like first person online shooter. and so it's basically they they just announced that the game failed a test um, that they needed to pass for some kind of a regulatory thing. So basically, the game's just not quite ready yet, and they're making the smart decision to hold it back and try to make it good. I don't think this really means anything bad, for the game. I think it's probably just, I think it's probably fine. The journalist from Kotaku, Zach Zwiesen, he said that he had played it earlier this year and he enjoyed it. He said it was exciting and fast paced. The game definitely shows promise. And if it's going to be an online shooter, it's probably going to be a big moneymaker for Ubisoft, and so they're going to want it to they're going to want to put their best foot forward on it. So it makes sense they would hold it until they're sure about that.
Yeah, because I believe this was so this was announced back in 2021,
Oh wow.
like summertime, and is this is the I believe it had to do with it was like originally like part of their Tom Clancy like line, kind of like Rainbow Six Extractions or something like that. But then they started changing some of their naming conventions around that same time. And for my what little I pulled up, it was like earlier this year, back in March and in April, they had some closed betas. So I can, it's better to hold off, especially if it's not up to stuff. People have shown that if you're willing to wait and you come out with a solid product, everyone's much happier and forgiving. Uh, the fan base is always better. Like they may not be happy of having to wait, but if it comes out and it's a solid port, like if they have solid ports of it, and everyone's like, okay, well, obviously you proved it's worth your time.
Right. Well,
So
what was that hero shooter that came out like a minute before Overwatch and then died as soon as Overwatch came out?
um, there's a few of them. One of them was there was the one that Epic made, and I'm trying to remember the name of that one right now. That one had the mushroom head.
Okay.
Um,
I'm thinking the one that
guy,
that 2K or Gearbox made. I feel like maybe it was Gearbox made one, and it was, people liked it, but it wasn't Overwatch, and Overwatch just like came out and just like freaking ate their lunch. Um, with like online shooters, that's
'cause the one I'm thinking of is Battleborn. And
Battleborn.
that
Yeah,
yeah, that had the mushroom head on it. Yeah,
I didn't know.
uh, there was another one where I don't know if it was Battleborn. I don't remember if that one was the one where you got to swing and tether, because there was a different one that it was all about tethering and moving, having traversal movements. There was a couple of them that just came in, went in a flash.
Wow.
So
Yeah. So I guess my point is that, with shooters, they're kind of a dime a dozen. The best ones are the best for a reason, and people are gonna flock to those. So you've really got to make sure that you don't, battleborn it. You don't come out with a semi good product, because you're really gonna have to wow people to pull them away from the game that they are already enjoying.
yes, and I mean, like I said, Extractions kind of proves that point too. It's like a lot of the Ubisoft shooters, they are able to support long term and really, even though like things come out originally like lackluster, they gave enough support to the point where the fans wrap around, and it's like, wow, they've stuck out, kind of like No Man's Sky in a sense. Comes out a little on the lackluster side,
A little.
but after enough support, enough TLC, everyone's like, you know what, this is way better than it should be, and
I mean,
I
like No Man's Sky, for as much as they were maligned, they're kind of a triumph. They're kind of a a good story now, like a feel good story of a studio that messed up and was like, okay, but we're gonna keep making our game, and they grounded out. They didn't take any more. I guess they took more money, but they didn't take their customers for granted anymore, and really made it right in the eyes of a lot of people. That's pretty much the consensus now, I think. So anyway,
I
that's
think
always
they
good to
got
see.
Yeah, they got shafted though in a lot of ways because they were front and center stage for Sony. Sony really promoted them really high, and then when they came out, Sony like pulled the rug, like we didn't know what's happening. Like they just completely threw them under the bus, and that was they got
Yeah.
done dirty there.
Yeah, they made a lot of
But
promises though, so
they,
it's
they did, but at the same time, I think Sony kind of put elevated them a little higher than they probably should have, uh, and they probably couldn't really do much. But in the end, they fulfilled those promises and then some. They recently just came out with the PS VR2 update, which dramatically changed the visual quality because when they first came out with their port, it was pretty blurry from
yeah,
all accounts, and so it really helped clear up the visuals on it. And arguably, it's actually like one of the top system like sellers. If you wanted to try to promote that, PSVR 2, it's a really good showcase. Granted, you can get it on a bunch of other things too, but it's just another good thing to have on PSVR 2.
yeah,
So, and they just recently got done having a really good sale on it. They were selling it for like half off, so it's like $30. Um, so that was just like the other week or something like that. And yeah, but that's the thing is if you can really dedicate yourself to supporting your game, even if it comes out really bad, you can usually salvage a lot of it. But it depends on how much effort, time you're willing to put into it. Uh, you know, games like Anthem almost killed BioWare
yeah,
because it came out after they've had a couple not so great games, much like Volition, but with enough really hard love and support, they could have probably saved Anthem, but instead they was just like, let's cut our losses, and it's easier to quick bury this and forget about it. Hopefully, the fans will forget about it too, because there'll be another hot mess, in the future.
yeah,
Which I don't know, it's necessarily the best approach. To just let's go to bed, forget about it, and pretend this never happened. I mean,
yeah.
that's not, you
I
know,
blame EA for that stuff, but they've done a little better recently. But they're just famous for driving companies into the ground, and BioWare is seems to be another one of those companies. I'm trying to think of what they've made since Anthem, but I don't think there's really much to speak of. But anyway, yeah, it's a tough world out there in video game development, but um, yeah, we'll just see what
yeah.
happens with X Defiant.
All right. And yeah, that's pretty much like I said, if they're willing to take their time, it'll prove worth it. Especially since one of the games I've been playing recently, they took their time and it shows in a lot of ways. There's still a lot of weirdness to it, but at least it's way better than it should be. Um, all right, is that it for the news?
No, there's one more thing. Near Replicant on PS Plus Extra. Uh,
Okay.
your daily new near minute. Yeah. So that is it for the news, though.
Okay, I think I saw I've been seeing some ads for some mobile game called like Niki or something like Nike, and there's a near crossover with that one. Yet another near crossover. You
Yeah.
can't go like a month or two without them. So,
Yeah. They're just making money, I guess, off of that. Yeah, that's what they want to do. It's a lot of
all right.
things.
So, all right. Well, what on the games front, what have you been playing, sir?
So I finally picked up Alan Wake Remastered. Not playing a whole lot of games recently, playing kind of slow. So I know Alan Wake's not too terribly long, but I was like, I want to go ahead and get this done before October really sets in because I don't want to run into Alan Wake 2 whenever I need to play that. But I started playing it, and it is a PS3 game, but it is a very nice looking remaster. I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. The camera took a minute to get used to, and then there's some shakes and stuff that happen in some of the cutscenes. I think it's only happened like once, but it's a good game. It's the first words that the game says are the words Stephen King. And I'm like, okay. So if you're into Stephen King or you know anything about him or his stories, it's not exactly like that, but it definitely borrows pretty heavily from it, but they do a really good job of setting up of setting the expectations of saying like, hey, this is, you're gonna have to suspend disbelief. They do it in a good way. They don't like beat you like over the head with it, but they're like, hey, this is a horror story, and you've got to suspend disbelief in order for this to like work. So they immediately set you up with that, and it is silly and fun, but it is a little bit tense at times. I wouldn't really call it horror per se, not like hardcore horror like Resident Evil or whatever. Um, but it is tense at times, and it's got a good little mystery. I'm actually surprised at how well the gameplay translates. A little janky, but anyway, it's been a ton of fun. I'm probably like halfway through chapter two, maybe toward the end of chapter two. Um, there's I think I told you about Night Springs. So I don't know if there's a better way to watch this, but in the game there are these there's these TVs, and if you turn the TV on, then an episode of this in-game TV show called Night Springs, which is a copy or a parody of the Twilight Zone, and they actually have like these FMV black and white videos, and they tell a little story. I don't know how many there are, but I've watched the first two, and it's definitely it's cool because of how much effort they put into it and how much thought that they did. Even though it's kind of silly, you don't have to get it. It is really cool.
So the canon concept of that is uh, Alan Wake being the an author in this world. He we used to write for the TV show Night Springs.
Oh
Yeah, which is
yeah,
very
okay.
much a Twilight Zone, or it's a
Outer
the
Limits.
Outer Limits.
Yeah.
And I feel it's slightly close to the Outer Limits, but only because the Outer Limits always had like a morality, like like the moral of the story at the end was this.
Hmm.
And he in this he's also the oh, was it Alex Casey or something, or no, who was the shoot who's this police officer in this one, because it's Max Payne, but he's
Oh yeah, I wasn't picking up on that subtext,
um
but yeah, he's like nursing a dog or something.
well, it's
Uh,
no, it's uh the lady at the diner. She's a big fan of him because of his book series, and his book series is Max Payne. But because technically at this point in Remedy they sold Max Payne to Rockstar because they made Max Payne 3.
Oh
So they don't outright say Max Payne. Let's see. So what and one of the they also have like TV show interviews and stuff like that, and you'll see Sam Lake, who obviously is the model for Max Payne. You'll see him doing interviews, talking about his role in this, as this character.
yeah,
So which also he's going to be, which is going to be weird because he's also playing a FBI agent in the new Alan Wake 2. So I'm wondering if he's supposed to be, yeah, anyways, I don't want to go into too much stuff because that might be spoiler or like predictive spoilering.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
uh
yeah. But it's I was gonna say something else about it, but I forgot. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm only a little ways in. It's like a 10-hour game, right? Isn't that about right? 10, 15.
I believe that's right. I think I might
Yeah,
have spent 15, but that's because I went ahead and I
that
collected
was it.
everything.
That was it. The
So,
manuscripts. You remind me of the manuscripts. So I thought I'd missed some, but then I realized, oh, some of those are on nightmare mode. I'm only playing on normal, um, which I don't know.
oh, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I managed. I didn't think I got them all in the first episode, but then I was like, oh no, those are for nightmare mode. And so I did end up getting all of the first episode ones, and I'm looking through. I guess really, I'm probably not even halfway through the second chapter. Then, if you judge it by manuscripts, because I've been trying to get those, and those I didn't. I was going to save them up and listen to them like all at once. But when I did that after chapter one, I was like, this would have been more helpful if I had listened to them as I got them. So That's what.
Because what the whole point of it is for you them to narrate kind of what's going on as they're happening, or roughly they have text like um the concept of what's going on either before or after your situation. So it's a little bit of predictiveness, and some of it's a little bit of like what has just happened, or a side story. Like you'll get a point of view of some of the other characters
Right.
being narrated by Alan Wake, though, or whomever it is that, because it's a manuscript that he didn't remember writing. So,
Yeah, yeah. So it is. It's pretty cool, and I'm like, okay, I need to do it that way. So I started doing it that way, and that is, it adds a lot more flavor. I'm actually pretty impressed with how the game takes inexpensive ways to make it feel more alive and more real. Like the narration is spread out right. It's very much its own thing, and it's using every uh, aspect of like a horror writer, and it's using every aspect of that idea to reinforce itself. And I really like it. I can't wait to play more.
yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and just the way they did a lot of things. I remember, uh, I remember getting all the trophies for it when it first came out, or achievements at the time, because it was Xbox 360, and it was a fun game. The combat was different. You either really liked it or hated it for the most part. I found out once you adapted to it, it got really secondhand, especially when you can, if you have volume turned up, you can hear audio clues, so you can start dodging while not being able to see where the attacks are coming from, because you can just tell.
Mm,
And yeah, that was no, I want to hear more about it. It's like I haven't played the remaster, unfortunately. I just haven't had time. But I really do want to play that before heading to the new game. Also, I really need to do the Control Alan Wake DLC,
yeah, you're gonna have to
which
tell me how that
I
goes.
only did the first DLC, and I've never got around to the what was it, the AWE DLC, the second one.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I've heard people refer to it as like the Alan Wake experience, um, something like that. So but yeah, it's canon.
Okay.
Like Alan Wake's totally canon. You find like I think it's a typewriter in one of the vaults,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, they kind of, and they make reference into documents about what happened, like an incident that happened at Cauldron Lake. So yeah, it's
There's
the
a lot
fact
of little Easter eggs for that.
they with Control, they completely decided to take all their games and make it into one canon universe.
Yeah.
Uh, but the thing is, they've Remedy's had a history with those TV events ever since
Right.
Max Payne. So
Right.
you'd walk by and you wouldn't really see any images, but you'd hear like what sounds like old timey radio. And it's someone watching like a soap opera, and one of them's like lords and ladies, and all you hear is "my lord, my lady, my lady, my lord," and like for like I don't know 2 3 minutes, and then at the same like then you hear some like mobster crying like so like someone's name, he's too good for you or something like that. It's just, and then you just shoot him in the back of the head because you're a monster, because that's how Max Payne is. um but yeah, it's just like you, or they had something about a flamingo just making weird like noises. Like it was just they had a lot of fun with their TV bits. And then you had Alan Wake. After that was the oh shoot, what was it? That it was the on Xbox One. Um it was, oh goodness gracious. It was the one game I didn't play their series because it was uh it had the there were I was overseas at the time, and a lot of the games were still region locked,
Hmm.
and I had such bad time with my 360 over there. So, uh, but they ended up coming out with the oh crud! It was having to do with stopping time. It had I think Iceman, the guy who plays in the X-Men series, the guy who plays Iceman. He was the main character, and they did a whole crossover TV event. Um, let's see. I'm gonna look this up right now because it's gonna drive me mental. Uh, Remedy. Let's see. Control Crossfire. Let's see. Do. Yeah, I can't believe. Well, you weren't. Quantum Break. That was it.
Quantum
Quantum
Break.
Break
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so. you know what? Now that I have Xbox Game Pass, I might. Control didn't seem to have a lot of references to that from what I saw, from what people like were saying about it when I was looking up Control stuff.
Hmm.
But that I guess was the antithesis of their, hey, let's have a video game and TV to go along with it. Like
Yeah,
they straight up,
they were
yeah,
beating around the bush for that for a long time, but whenever when Quantum Break came out, people that were reviewing it were like, "Yeah, it's not horrible, but it's not really working out exactly
yeah.
right."
But
But it's fun to try.
Xbox at the time was they were trying to do their whole TV initiative. This is the one entertainment system you need.
Oh yeah,
They were doing those Halo TV shows, and they were like going all in. They're like, we're gonna get Spielberg to do stuff for us, and
yeah.
it
I
was
never watched the
it.
Halo TV show. I heard it was all right, but I don't know.
It was like I said, it was the I think their messaging was so bad in the beginning when they launched the Xbox, that, it was unfortunate, and there was a lot of potential there, just kinda squandered and went straight, straight to the gutter because of that. Uh, but no, I'm super stoked that you're digging Alan Wake. Had such just great memories. Let me know when you get to the rock concert,
Okay,
and
okay,
yeah, uh they have an homage to something similar to that too in, Control, and it is one of the best scenes in Control, full stop. It's just like that there's, it's kind of they make a reference to it, and they amp it up to 11. It's great.
yeah,
So, alright, for me, I unfortunately have not played a lot, because of just family illness, but I finally did get my hands on, to playing a little game that some people might know as Starfield, and I really came into this game not. I didn't give a crap about it. Like I was not excited about it at all. I just didn't. I wasn't expecting there to be a lot of jank because every Bethesda game. I mean, let's see, last time I bought one right away was Skyrim, and of course I bought it on the PS3, which is like the worst possible system to buy it on because they had the notorious failure of the more you played and the larger your save data got it ended up slowing down the game as a whole to the point where it was pretty much unplayable. It was a broken ass game, uh, and yeah, it was a terrible, terrible experience. I played Fallout 4, just could not get into it as well, and then of course you had was it Vault 76 buggies crap. So like it really was they kind of took all the wind out of the sails. I just couldn't be I couldn't care less. But I really really like Starfield.
oh good,
Starfield's hitting all the right notes. It feels like return to form. I've always been more of a Fallout fan over a Elder Scrolls fan. I prefer the the more sci-fi stylings. I prefer bullets over magic essentially,
mm-hmm.
and they do a lot of things right here. It feels more fluid. The fact that they launched a game that wasn't broken. I mean, I made reference to this before, but they delayed this game for 10 months and it shows. Granted, it's not perfect by any means, but it doesn't have nowhere near as bad jank as any of the games I had mentioned prior. The fact that it's running pretty steady at 30 frames on my Xbox Series X, and my PC. When I'm playing on the PC, it's running just fine. Uh, I Yeah, I'm super impressed about all that. As far as being able to wander, do things, yeah, I'm currently like 20 hours into the first 90 minutes of the game,
Yeah,
meaning like the first planet, like the first time I land somewhere, I'm like, yeah, your objective is literally you can see it. You can just see it right there. You just have to go in that direction. And then I went, yeah, let me just do a 180. And I just ended up wandering this vast like landscape, which feels like I don't know half the map of, or like maybe a quarter of the map of Fallout 3. It just you seem to be walking and going forever.
wow,
Uh, yeah, it's just what I should have probably finished and by like level 2, I was already like level 5 or 6. Um, and met a bunch of random encounters, random structures, things like that. Accidentally stole another ship. I just saw a ship land. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Let me walk up to it." Like, it showed nothing red, like, nothing hostile. Okay, cool. I'm walking through the ship. We'll go to the front. It's like the cockpit door is not, like, locked or anything. Just open it up, and then a handful of dudes all in red. I'm like, like, their names are all red, and they just turn around and start, like, trying to fire at me. So I'm like, "Alright, suppress the fire." I just murder them all, and then I'm like, "Huh, this ship is mine now, I guess." So,
Got it.
y yeah, exactly, and they have a lot of unique stuff for it. I think you should maybe give this a shot, or at least at the very minimum. Just have a little fun with the intro and a couple of the main story missions, just to see if it's your cup of tea. Because even my wife's got a chance to play this on the console, and she's really having fun for the beginning portion. Though I kind of was able to let her know I spent a lot of times not knowing exactly how certain things were. Like, I tried something and it didn't work. So, like, I'm like, "Okay, here's the TLDR. This is what you're gonna wanna do. Here's my quick tips," because I haven't spent a lot of time. You can find a lot of tutorial videos or a lot of, beginner guides. Uh, I haven't spent a lot of time with those myself just because I didn't have a lot of time to deal with it. So I'm like, "Alright." Uh, but yeah, this game is really fun. I'm looking forward to it. It does everything. It plays like how I remember, like, Fallout playing. I'm having that much fun with it, I should say. The mechanics and stuff are quite a bit better. I kinda wish there was a VATS, so I love
Mm,
me VATS, like, especially for the console because, well, playing with the mouse and keyboard, shooting's fine. But playing with the, controller, it's not quite the same, and I personally liked VATS because I just pause it every time, and I loved seeing percentages and dice rolls and essentially to see what kind of criticals or what kind of, limb targeting. I always thought that was really, entertaining for me, and that's why when people were like, "Fallout 4, it shoots better." I'm like, "I don't care, I just want VATS." You know? That's just
yeah,
how I
the
played that
the
game.
VATS was good because it was like, well, you can turn it into an RPG if you're just not really feeling like playing a shooter. You're like, I can kind of game it and do better that way. So it was they're both kind of janky. Shooting wasn't that great and VATS wasn't that great, but at least it gave you a choice on what your play style was. So that was cool. But yeah, I've been hearing a lot of good things. There's some guys at work they're playing Starfield, and they just say that it's awesome. That it's great, and that there's just a lot of it. So yeah, I'd like to give it a try. Definitely, definitely don't think it's the game for me to play long term. But I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I do want to maybe see what it's like so I can talk about it a bit more later.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have to keep on reminding me to stick to the main mission, but it's just there's so many. Like when you hit the first major colony, you end up there's just so many named NPCs that hand you little story missions or little like side quests, and those pile up real quick. But they're not too difficult, not at all. But they're still super fun to do, and or at least certain ones. And there's a lot of potential there. There's also a lot of fluff. I think it could have been a little more streamlined, I think. The fact that their major city, the first major city, has no city map, that's like egregious. I'm like, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah.
It's actually it infuriates me so much because there's multiple levels. Like there's you can take an elevator to hit like a lower district,
Hmm.
and when you try looking at, you can't see. There's nothing for you to see. Like you just have to map out the area and memorize it. And I'm
Draw
like,
your own
this
map.
is
It sucks.
I'm like, it's ridiculous. I'm like, how do you not have a simple, detailed little city map? I mean, but when you land in the cities, you might as well be on a foreign planet, with an outpost and just random things. Like it's that part was like sloppy as hell.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm sure someone's gonna mod something eventually, and that's how a lot of these things, like because of their sponsorship with AMD, they're it wasn't until the very last minute that AMD officially said, "Well, we're not forcing people to use only our stuff, FSR. Like they can use DLSS if they want, like, but that's up to them and Nvidia essentially to do it." And I'm like, they probably did that so last minute. So within the first, couple of hours of game release, modders have already had like DLSS like hacks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good for you guys. That's awesome. You also shouldn't necessarily be doing their work, but that's almost I think it's almost a meta game to a lot of Bethesda fans. It's like, okay, new Bethesda game. Let's see who can crack the code first and do certain things, like the classic mods or something like that. Let's see what we can bring out of this.
Yeah, it
There was
kind of
someone
is a
who did
competition
a
there.
oh yeah, for sure. And there was someone who was paying for, I guess this could have been slight news, um, but for the DLSS frame generation. Someone made a mod and they were charging. They tried making a DRM for this mod, but they
Mhm.
were like, "Hey, subscribe to me on like Patreon or whatever, or pay for it, and then I'll get you this mod." And apparently, they were making bank. Like allegedly, they're making like 40K like a
Wow.
month for technically. Um, but that mod also got someone broke. They hacked that mod, so they removed DRM. So
Oh,
it's just like that's hilarious. But what do you expect, I guess, from a modder to get modded his own DRM out? But granted, they did the work, so I think it's fine to throw them a kickback because if they're making your experience better, why not show your appreciation? I'm not doing it, but then again, I also the game could look better if I tweak some optimized settings. I'm okay with the way it is. It plays better and looks better than the console, but the console looks just fine too. I
mhm.
mean, granted, if you are a 60 frames kind of snob, like I can't play at 30, then I can see your problem. But for me, that's not an issue right now. Like I said, my wife's been playing on the OLED TV, and she's been having a real good time. Uh, so it's an older one too. So unfortunately, we don't have um, and we don't have VSync attached to that TV. So it's just standard OLED, but it still looks really nice. So better than my monitor.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
good.
I'm like I said, I'm enjoying the crap out of the game way more expected, and I've I've also they have backgrounds for your characters and stuff like that. And it's fun to kind of level spec your character out the way you want to. They do some things right. They do some things. Like I said, there's always things that they can be done better. But from some stuff I heard, they haven't. It's the game is really they really want you to do a new game plus. Essentially, is how it works.
Oh, okay.
Um, or at least they reward you for doing a new game plus.
Right.
Because the main storyline isn't really that terribly long. Uh, in the grand scheme of these kind of games,
Okay.
and you can bring over your character levels, and then you can really start specking out more later on. And the game is that actually has apparently new dialogue for New Game Plus. So it's just like, hey, you're not getting the same exact run through. I'm not sure how much specialized New Game Plus content there is as far as dialogue goes, but at least you're not getting exactly the same. Um, I chose to go with uh, some weird traits just to make my playthrough a little more unique for me. Or the reason why I went with them. Like I went with some one of the backstories was I have parents, so
Mm,
essentially I'm paying, but I'm sending money home to my family to help support them so it's you send them like a couple hundred credits every week in game,
yeah.
which isn't much, but hey, you get to visit your family, so that's what I did. I went to visit them, and their character models are um they're supposed to be somewhat generated after the way you design your character model.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I didn't quite get to see it too well, like, but I didn't spend too much time customizing my own personal character. I did have to switch it though, because the one they auto generated for me was this like balding, it was like balding, white haired, um, I don't know, like 80-year-old Asian man,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I should totally just role play with this, and then I can just be like, um, Uncle from Jackie Chan's Adventure or something like that. Like maybe one of these days I'll just do a random role like that. Be like, okay, just do I've always wanted to do that with Bethesda games, but I just end up never. I don't have the time for that. Like to do like, all right, just assign a D10 for different character archetypes. Roll and see what I get. Do I get like, do I get a mage? Do I get a melee? Do I get a, like a bare-fisted fighter? Like, so I just, I always wanted to just do a random roll and see what I do. And like same with stats. Be like, is my character smart, or are they like dumb as rocks? because this game so far, it's it's a lot more fun as far as the adventuring world goes, but as the writing so far, I don't know if it's any better than the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds had a lot of good writing.
Hmm.
The world seemed a little smaller in scope, uh, but it really felt it had like a good flavor to it. And I really did like that. So it's like similar, but same but different. So it's kind of hard for me to. I can't really say one's better than the other. I think overall, like I said, the grand scale of what they're trying to provide here is bigger,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% better. There's so much more to get involved with shipbuilding and outposts and stuff like that. And like I personally don't care about outposts. I didn't care about building your homes and stuff like that in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So and this shipbuilding requires you to really go down that ship tech tree a lot, and I'm like, that's kind of not what I'm going for. I generally in these kind of games just go with a more of a stealthy, like ballistics firearm. Like I'm never really a laser blaster kind of person,
Yeah.
so I just end up going with bullets. And
Bullets feel
uh,
better, I think, usually. It's hard to get
yeah,
the
I
lasers
I
right.
also I also prefer to have someone who can talk his way out of situations. So I always do some sort of
Char-
persuasion.
yeah,
Uh,
charisma and persuasion type thing going.
yeah, and so in this case, I went with the backstory, like the background of an industrialist who gives you like lock picking, persuasion, and shoot, researcher,
Oh
I
yeah.
think. So yeah, I mean, there's this game has just so much to offer.
Yeah, I've heard it has it
So like I
all.
said,
I've heard it has a ton.
dude, I'm 20 hours in, and I swear to God, I'm only like not even 2 hours into the game.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, I've spent so much. I spent way too much time on that first planet just to see what like just and got my once I got my bearings, I'm like, okay, I'm now pretty solid. I don't really have to worry about much else. I'm comfortable how this game rolls, and yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of character you're gonna make. I would like to see you.
Probably won't spend a lot of
Uh,
time on it, but I'd probably make it somebody that looks like me. That's usually what I just go ahead and do is that just for sake of ease. Um,
I used to do that with MMOs. I would make characters that look like coworkers, and I would then steal their name and roll around with them. And then, especially when I convince them to play the game, then I'd roll up with them and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're like, "Wait a minute, what?"
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
I've done that with two former bosses and like two or three other friends.
Yeah, that's a good joke, man.
All right. Yeah, so that's it for Starfield. I'm liking what I like of it so far, but it's I'm still pretty early in on the grand scheme of things. So, you'll probably hear me talk more about it later on. But like I said, I wasn't expecting to spend any time with this. So I was like this last couple of games have been full of surprises for me. I'm way more happy with them than I expected to, and that's okay with me.
Pleasant
All right.
surprise. That's good.
So, what have you been watching, sir?
So going over to that, yeah, I started watching a TV show on Apple TV called Silo, which is it's based on a book, I think, not a series, but a book, uh, where it's in the future at some point, and all these people live inside of a very large silo. There's about 10,000 people that live in this kind of a cylinder that goes above and below ground. Um, and they're stuck in there because outside in the outside world, if you go outside, you will die. And they kind of show that early on in the first episode. But Rebecca Ferguson is the kind of the lead the lead role in the show, and she's very good. I've always liked her and everything she's done. She was in some Mission Impossible stuff. I think fairly recently in one of the movies a couple years ago, and then she was also in Dune. Came out a couple years ago. So she's always very good, and she's playing the lead there and doing a good job. It's a good show. It's got a good mystery to it. Not really sure what's going on, but pretty sure something's going on. The show also has a ton of guest stars and stuff like that. Rashida Jones, who you'll know from Parks and Rec. Tim Robbins, obviously. Harriet Walter, I've seen around before, but I don't remember from what. Common, the rapper. Uh, Lane Glenn, or Ian Glenn, rather. And then there's a couple others. There's a, what's his name? Will Patton is in it as well. And then I'm seeing some other people that are pretty recognizable. So it's got a good cast, a lot of interesting people. Everyone's pretty much everybody's doing their job in the best way. Anyway, so I'm about 6 episodes in. I think there's 8 or 10 so far. I don't think that this first season is really gonna end the show. It feels like there's too much left to uncover, but it is good, and I would watch a second season as long as I don't like totally screw the pooch in these last couple episodes. It is a show that I would want to watch again. But yeah, very cool. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
All right, yeah. I haven't even heard of it. So then again, I don't have Apple TV. So yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's an interesting concept. Then all I can start thinking of is Attack on Titan. They're all just cattle waiting to be slaughtered. That whole metaphor. He burns to death, and I'm like, all right. So
There's something going on there. My theory, my theory, I don't know, it's not really a theory, but my fear is that like they're actually not lying. That like the people that control the silo and all the dark stuff, like they're not lying. They are telling the truth, and it is just like that bad, and it's like hopeless. But I don't know if they're gonna go that route. But I don't know. Anyway, it's a good show. If you're interested in anything that I said with that, it's good. It's pretty well done at the very least.
okay. So yeah, being sick and being with the sick kids and stuff and not having a lot of time, my spouse and I ended up watching. This is gonna be our anime minute here. So I went ahead and uh, got really into the Horimiya, the missing pieces, season, and essentially it's the best way to put this, because it sounds really bad when I say it this way, is it's all filler episodes. But essentially, it's just the main series. They hit a lot of the major beats, but they skip larger portions. So it's just like it is kind of these missing gaps. But because it's not a heavy plot story, it's more of a slice of life type of thing. It really doesn't matter because um, it's not like you're missing an actual real story arc. It's just the interaction of people, and it's really entertaining. It's really good. We've been watching it in English. They're up to episode 9 now,
Mm,
and have been. I forgot how much I really like Horimiya. It's really funny. It's really entertaining, and
good.
I've been keeping up with it from the beginning, but then I rewatched all of them for uh, Reign of the Seven Spellblades. This is that Harry Potter esque Magic Academy, anime. Uh, it's funny. I was trying to explain it to my wife at first, and she's like, "Is it bad that I automatically thought I was an isekai?" I'm like, "No, no, that's the right mentality to have." But no, it's not. It's not at all. At least
Oh,
not that I'm aware of. And
there's
yeah,
always a chance that it could be, and they're just waiting to
that's the
ruin
plot
it.
twist at the
Yeah,
end.
it was all an isekai. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's oh man, how terrible would that be? But yeah, no, it's really solid, and so I caught her up on all 8 episodes of that. That's in English right now. So I got to rewatch all that stuff, and it's solid. I rather like it a lot. Uh, and then they just started showing my love story with Yamada Kun, level 999. In English is 3 episodes out, and it's kind of trash, but not because of the English dubbing. It's because, at least where I'm watching it, they don't have the soft subs for text.
mm,
So because it has to do with being playing with on an MMO and a lot of text messaging going back and forth. there's a lot that if you don't read Japanese, you are screwed.
Uh, yeah.
So it's a lot of quick pause, try to read it in Japanese, like, okay, all right, yeah, I kind of got like 2/3 of this. I'm like, all right, yeah, no problem. But then eventually just got to the point where like, all right, we're just gonna watch this back, watch it in Japanese itself because therefore everything is subtitled for you.
Mm.
And then we started cruising along ahead on that one, and my wife's been enjoying that. Uh, but yeah, it was one of those things that we're sick, we're tired, it's late, and so we just started really binging a lot of anime. And it's been good. But yeah, that's really been all that we've been watching on our end.
That's good. I'll probably talk about more later, but a friend at work, he I actually have a Demon Slayer figure that is on one of my shelves at work, and he asked about it, and I was like, "It's Demon Slayer. You got to watch it." And I explained some stuff about it to him, and he went and watched it, almost all of it. But he suggested, which this is what I've been wanting to get to anyway. But he said I should watch One Punch Man. So I watched the first 2 episodes of that. I think it's good. I'm gonna reserve my opinions on it until I can watch more of it, at least the rest of the first season, which I should be able to do by next time. But yeah, so I am still anime aware, um, and I'm gonna try to get some more in here soon.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on One Punch Man. It's most definitely. I think it's worth a watch at least, and
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I'm surprised you actually. So you're brave enough to display your figures at work now. Okay.
Yeah, I have an X-wing, an old school X-wing toy that I got when I was a kid that I think is worth like $150, but I don't know, it may not be in the right condition. So kind of surprised about that. And then yeah, I have a figure that's there, and it sparks conversation sometimes, and that's what's cool.
You know what would spark conversation? You bringing that mouse pad that I gave you for near to work.
Yep, that would spark a conversation with the big boss very quickly,
Hey,
and
maybe they'd be interested. Just saying.
and
It's
HR. I think the rim on that would be problematic.
hey, I mean, you can't they can't make a precedence unless you bring it up first, and so therefore, you gotta pave the way. Uh,
No, I don't, but I see what you're saying.
all right. Well, if you made it to this part of the episode, we appreciate it. This has been episode 52 of Another Dead Pixel. And yeah, until next time, Nick, what words of wisdom do you have to give to our listeners?
Um, Always remember to wipe front to back.
Yes, true words have never been spoken. All right. Well, thank you again, guys. And until next time, take it easy.
Bye.